Hello. Welcome again as we continue to look at evidences for the historical reliability of the Bible. In the Old Testament, in the early 6th century BC, we read about the fall of Jerusalem and the ensuing captivity of many of the Jewish people in Babylon. After Babylon itself falls in 539 BC to the Persians, Cyrus the Great issues a proclamation allowing the Jews to return home. This idea of Cyrus making a proclamation allowing the repatriation of Babylonian captives and allowing them to return home and to worship as they had in previous years is found not only in the pages of the Bible, where it is mentioned in the books of 2nd Chronicles and Ezra, but also in a late 6th century BC clay cylinder known as the Cyrus cylinder, which was discovered in the ruins of Babylon during a 19th century archaeological excavation. Some of the historical events related to the Jewish people after their release from Babylonian captivity can be seen in the Old Testament in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. The book of Ezra includes, among other things, the return of the Jews to their homeland and the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem. The book of Nehemiah covers, among other things, the rebuilding of the city walls around Jerusalem. The rebuilding of the city walls was led by the man Nehemiah, who had previously been a cupbearer for the Persian Emperor Artaxerxes I, and who, for a time, would be the Persian governor of Judea. When Nehemiah was leading in the rebuilding of the walls of the city sometime after 445 BC, he began to face opposition from the Samaritans in the area. The vocal leader of the Samaritans, as can be seen in chapter 4 of the book of Nehemiah, was a man by the name of Sanballat. Sanballat was, or at least would later become, a man of influence and political connections. It is later noted in the book of Nehemiah that his daughter would marry the grandson of the Jewish high priest. It is also noted that there were some corrupt political dealings between the high priestly family and one of the friends of Sanballat named Tobiah. In Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 9 and 10, in conjunction with the first mention of Sanballat in the book of Nehemiah, we read this. Then I came to the governors of the province beyond the river and gave them the king's letters. Now the king had sent me with officers of the army and horsemen. But when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite, heard this, it displeased them greatly that someone had come to seek the welfare of the children of Israel. It would seem from this that Sanballat may have been not only a leader of the Samaritans, but also the governor of Samaria. An historical point of contact with the story of Sanballat in the book of Nehemiah is found far away in the land of Egypt. There's an island by the name of Elephantine in the Nile in Upper Egypt near the first cataract of the Nile at Aswan. There was a Jewish community in Elephantine perhaps as early as the 7th century BC. There was definitely a community made up largely of Jewish soldiers by the early 5th century BC when the Persian Empire dominated Egypt. One of the interesting things about Elephantine was that there was a Jewish temple there. Not a synagogue, but a full-fledged temple, with the accompanying sacrifices and customs, although there appears to have been some mixture with pagan Egyptian religious customs also. The temple existed from the 6th or 7th century BC until 407 BC, when it was at least partially destroyed by the worshippers of one of the local Egyptian deities. It appears to have been repaired or rebuilt, but ceased to function by the mid-4th century BC. It is the partial destruction of the temple at Elephantine which prompts a connection with the book of Nehemiah. A group of papyrus documents known as the Elephantine Papyri have been discovered at Elephantine that date primarily from 495 to 399 BC. Among them was a letter written in 407 BC that seeks for help in the rebuilding of the Elephantine temple. It asked for help from the Persian governor of Judea, an office that at that time was held by a man by the name of Bagoas. An appeal was also made to at least 3 other people. 2 of them were children of a man listed as the governor of Samaria. The name of the governor of Samaria? Sanballat, known beforehand only from his earlier role as a Samaritan leader and probable governor of Samaria in the book of Nehemiah. Moreover, all these things in a letter we sent in our name to Delaiah and Shelemiah, sons of Sanballat, governor of Samaria. From the Elephantine Papyri. The Elephantine letter also makes a request of the Jewish high priest at that time, a man by the name of Johanan, also known as Jehohanan. He is also mentioned by name in two other contemporary documents, the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. This letter from Elephantine was written about 35 years or so after the events recorded in the book of Nehemiah. The generational transition can also be seen in comparing the two documents. Johanan, who is listed merely as the son of the high priest Eliashib in the earlier books of Ezra and Nehemiah, is now listed as the high priest in the Elephantine letter. Nehemiah is the Persian governor of Judea around 450 BC, but more than 3 decades later, the Elephantine letter requests help from the governor of Judea, who is no longer Nehemiah, but now a man by the name of Bagos. But curiously, when requesting assistance from Samaria, the letter doesn't address the governor, although it refers to him, but the two sons of the governor. One possible explanation for this curiosity is that Sanballat, who is still called governor, is now very old, and his sons are temporarily ruling in his stead. Another possibility is that Sanballat is now dead. The reliability of the biblical story during this time period can be seen by the points of contact between the Bible and the archaeological and historical record of the time. From Cyrus the Great in the mid to late 6th century BC, to Sanballat, governor of Samaria, and Johanan the high priest in the mid to late 5th century BC. Discoveries, rather than disproving or casting doubt on the biblical record, have backed up the stories found in the pages of God's Word. Join us again next week as we continue to look at more evidences of the historical reliability of the Bible.